everyone, welcome back to my channel and welcome to another video. Today I'm filming something which I have been asked to film several times, which is some content around starting a YouTube channel, some tips for a YouTube channel, and my experience being on the Plan a Face PR team. I haven't really known what I wanted to include in this video for a long time, which is why it's taken me so long to film it. But in the last few weeks, the ideas have kind of came to me, and so I thought finally it was time for me to bring this content to YouTube. For your context, in case you're new here, I am quite a small YouTube channel. At time of filming on my planning channel, I have just under 800 subscribers, and I have about 60 subscribers on my BookTube channel, which I started recently, and I haven't reached enough hours to be monetized. So you need 1,000 followers and 4,000 public watch hours in order to be monetized on YouTube. However, that's really not why I do it. I love planning. I love this hobby. I just love sharing what I do with the community. And so that's why I make content. And increasingly, I've realized that there are probably a lot of people who would love to have a YouTube channel, even of my size, who would love to share their hobby with other people but have no idea where to start. A lot of the content that exists on YouTube is for people who are trying to become the next Mr. Beast or Markiplier or Lil Simsy, people that really want big followings, millions of subscribers. And this video is not going to help you get there. That's not what I'm trying to achieve, because clearly I haven't achieved that. But if you are someone that loves your small, nichey, probably crafty hobby, and you are interested in starting a channel but you have no idea what to do, I hope that the tips I will give you in this video will help you realize you can achieve that. I knew nothing before I got started, so my aim is to just kind of talk you through the basics and things I've learned and things I wish I'd known. If this video only helps one person to start a channel, I will have still totally achieved what I wanted to with this video, so I really hope that at least one of you will find it helpful. So I'm going to be splitting my content into a few different parts. So first I'm going to be talking about YouTube, where I'm going to be talking about branding, filming, editing, uploading, general YouTube admin, and then at the end of the video I will be talking about my experience on the Plan a Face PR team, so that you can find out a little bit more about that, and particularly if you are thinking of applying. So the first thing you want to think about is whether you are someone who's really going to like making content for YouTube. I present as part of my job, and so speaking in front of a camera really doesn't faze me. I'm quite happy to watch myself back speaking, as I have to do it for my job. So yeah, editing is a bit weird because you have to listen to yourself speak, but honestly I'm pretty used to it, so it doesn't bother me. I like sharing what I do. I like talking about it, so it really wasn't too much of an adjustment. But if you are somebody who really doesn't like speaking that much, you may genuinely not enjoy making YouTube content. The most important thing, particularly as it's going to take you so long before you get monetized, is to make sure you actually want to do this and that you're doing it for the right reasons. So don't just do it because you feel you have to, do it because you want to. I do have a script down below. I barely script videos these days. I really just talk because, as I say, I present for my job, so it's pretty normal for me to do that. My videos are rambly and off the cuff, and that's part of who I am, and that's part of the brand that I put out there. But I have scripted this video to make sure that I say everything I want to say, so if you do see me looking down, it's because I have my iPad down there with the script on it. So the first thing that we're going to do is talk about branding. So branding is something which you may only think of big companies needing to do, but it is something that can really help to get yourself known and to build up a consistent identity for you across multiple social media platforms. It's basically the sort of artwork that you choose to use. There are loads of tools out there that you can use to help you with this. I would really recommend Canva, which is a free resource that anyone can use. That's what I use to make my intro videos, my outro videos. I use it to make my thumbnails. So I would really recommend it. There's a lot of free templates in there that you can use as well. Pick some colors that you think work for you. I do have some art that forms part of my planning YouTube channel, so I commissioned someone who was drawing at the time to make a sort of profile picture for me. I'm going to be moving all of my artwork over to Kitnish. Jess is art in the new year. Jess really kindly drew a picture for me at the request of Anna for my 30th birthday, and so I will be switching all my branding over to have that drawing from Jess. But there are loads of artists out there on Etsy that you could commission. For my book channel, I use Banana Rose Art to draw my profile picture, and then my branding is kind of built around that. So I wouldn't recommend you necessarily need to go that far into that from the beginning. It's something that I've built up and will change over time as my brand evolves. But I did always know that I wanted like blues, whites and yellows to be my color scheme, and I've kept that consistent the whole time that I've been on my channel, even if my branding changes. So have a think about what you want your identity to be online. What colors do you want to use? What font do you want to use? What music do you want to use? All of these things that are going to represent you and be known as you are important to think about before you get started. With my intro and outro video, they are just like still images on Canva that I set to become a video for like 4 seconds or something like that. I do add my music every time I edit. So I bought my music from Premium Beats and I have that downloaded on my phone and I add it manually over my intro and outro every single time I edit a video. I am sure that other people will have it so that they have these set clips that include their music as well, but I'm not advanced enough to do that, and it really only takes me a couple of seconds per video. Thumbnails are the first impression for a video, and I would really think about what you want your thumbnails to look like. There are a lot of planning channels that, in my opinion, have thumbnails that are really hard to read. The text is either really small, or the color variation against the background picture or the background color is not great. Look through channels that you admire, where you're drawn to the thumbnails, and see what it is about their thumbnails you like, and see if you can recreate it in your own style. Obviously, make sure you don't copy. Canva, again, is a great resource for this. I make all of my thumbnails in Canva, and I have a set design which I use for all my thumbnails. I do change my mind on thumbnails as YouTube changes and grows. I change my thumbnails to match with that. For my BookTube channel, I had to learn quite a lot about how to draw around outlines on a thumbnail. I can't find any information on how to do that online. So what I do is I put the thumbnail together in Canva, I download it to my iPad, and I do have an iPad with a pen, so I draw around it in GoodNotes. I screenshot the thumbnail from GoodNotes, I crop it, and then I upload it to YouTube Studio. It's a really lengthy way of doing it, but it works for me until I figure out some fancier editing software that people are using to get those white outlines around themselves. My planning thumbnails are much easier and quicker to do. I much prefer them, but I think my BookTube ones are more in with what is kind of happening in the bigger YouTube community. Planning is a much smaller community space than BookTube, and a lot of us have thumbnails that have quite a lot of wording on them, or half of it is a block color with writing on it. So whilst I think my thumbnails aren't particularly exciting, they're consistent enough with what the community is expecting to draw enough of a crowd, I think. Remember that your thumbnail is going to have to look good on a mobile device, even if you don't watch YouTube on mobile. Like, I don't particularly watch that much YouTube on mobile. I watch it on our massive movie-sized screen. A lot of people are watching on their phone. And so you do need to make sure that your thumbnail is going to look good small. This was something that I realized when I was doing my BookTube thumbnails, that actually they don't look good small, because I was putting some of my titles where the little digits come up that tell you how long the video is, and it was actually Anna that spotted that rather than me. So it is important to make sure that you do your own work on that and look at your thumbnails across multiple platforms to check how they look to people watching on different sites to you. Okay, so now let's get on to filming equipment, because I think this is probably what a lot of you will be interested in. So I film on my phone. Every single video I make, I film on my phone. I don't have a camera. I have an iPhone 13 Pro. I upgraded from the iPhone 11 earlier on this year, but I have filmed the majority of the videos for my channel on my iPhone 11. The plus of my iPhone Pro is that it has a better quality camera, though it has like 3 cameras, and to be honest, I find the 3 cameras really annoying, and I'm not someone who is techie enough to look at different settings to figure out how to switch some of that off. So I do find that that can be annoying. My iPhone 11 was easier to film on, but I upgraded to a bigger storage on my phone. The biggest issue I found with filming on my phone is that if you're filming a lot of footage, it will fill up your phone quickly, and so I did pay more to have a phone with more storage. That was instead of me buying a separate camera. I don't use a microphone. I use my inbuilt microphone on my phone, which is fine. It's not the best. When I find it the worst is when I'm filming top-down videos and I'm standing up near the microphone. If I cough or I breathe, or sometimes I think it kind of wrecks the microphone. Filming a video like this where I'm a distance away from the microphone, in my opinion, sounds fine for what I'm trying to achieve. Give you some pros that I think for filming on a phone as someone who does that and doesn't have a separate camera. So phones can film for longer than a camera. This is actually a discussion that Anna and I were having this morning when I was talking to her about the script for this video, is that you'll hear a lot of people who are filming on YouTube be like, sorry, my camera died. Sorry, my camera cut me off. I could not handle the stress of that. I do not want to film for like 30 minutes and then my camera overheat and me have to come back half an hour to an hour later to film the rest of the footage. I do not have the patience. My schedule doesn't work like that. I can film on my phone easily for a couple of hours. So that's something I really like about filming on a phone. I also feel like I don't have to charge my phone. I have good battery life on my phone, and I charge my phone as second nature anyway. I charge it every day, which means that I don't have to worry about having to charge my camera batteries in advance of needing to film. My phone just has enough charge because I charged it. As I mentioned though, something that you do need to think about is storage. So when I was doing Vlogmas 2020, quality. My iPhone 11 was full of photos from Disney trips, and it was basically impossible to batch film content, which is something that I'll talk about later on. And I found it really stressful. That is why I've got a bigger phone now. If you don't think your phone is going to have enough storage, you are probably better off getting a camera where you can upload the files somewhere else. But I personally make sure I have a big enough phone so I can film on my phone, because it's just easier for me than having a camera. The biggest thing I like about filming on my phone is that I can edit on my phone, and I will talk about editing later on. I think if I had to upload the files to a laptop and edit on a computer, I would hate it, and I don't think I would make YouTube content. I have to make YouTube fit into my lifestyle, even if it means that the quality of my videos is maybe not as advanced as people who can edit better than me or film better than me. And it's better for me to just have content out there, and editing on my phone allows me to do that. So that is the biggest kind of pro for me of filming on my phone. So when you're filming, you are going to need something to hold your phone or your camera. The best recommendation that I have, particularly for filming top-down content, is this, which I got from Amazon, which clips onto the top of my desk and points downwards. So when I'm filming hauls, or if I'm filming plan with me's, unboxings, anything like that, where you can see my hands, my phone is clipped into that and pointing straight down. When I first started my channel, I didn't have that. I used this, which is a tripod that I also got from Amazon. This tripod is fine. It's a bit flimsy. It's not the most expensive thing ever, and my iPhone is quite big for this now. But it worked fine, but it doesn't go top down. And I really wanted very straight on top down content. And so I'm very lucky to have a desk that has a bar, which means I can clip on that. I do still use this for other things. So for example, if I'm filming something at an angle, particularly for book content, this is quite useful. It does extend quite far. You can see we've got these clips here. It extends out and expands back in, and it does mean that it goes relatively tall, not as tall as me, but it goes relatively tall, and so that can be quite a pro. And if you were trying to get top down content, you may be able to get it like that, but I found that when I had my phone pointing down, I could still see the feet of my tripod, so I really didn't like that. There are a lot of people who do upload content with the feet of the tripod in. I personally don't like it. I wanted a clear top down, and that is the best way I've found to do this. I've tried other things. I've tried having like the legs extended on two but not one, and hanging over a chair and planning that way. And you know, this is just what worked the best for me, but you might have to do a bit of trial and error to figure out what works for you. Lighting is really important for videos. It is the biggest thing other than sound quality that I think makes a big difference to people watching your content. Personally, after 2.5 years of trial and error, I feel that natural lighting is the best. I film all my videos now with natural light. The downside to that is when you're in the middle of winter and you only get natural light for a few hours a day. So it does restrict me in that sense. So that can be irritating, and a lot of my BookTube content is filmed kind of in the dark, but at least I get content out. But I do feel like in the ideal, I do film where I've got light here that works. I do have an overhead light in here, which is a white light. I don't have it on right now. I also have ring lights. So I have, you are on a tripod with a ring light right now. And I do sometimes use a ring light. In fact, I probably could have used a ring light for this. It might have been better. In fact, let me put it on now and we can see what the difference will look like. Ultimately probably better, so we'll leave it on. This is with the ring light on, this is with the ring light off, so you can see that it probably does make a pretty big difference. It's quite bright right now, so let me turn it down a little bit. So ring lights can make a big difference to the light that shines on you. I do have 2 ring lights. The other one I have is this one. They're both from Amazon. This one is the flimsiest thing ever. It's just not great, and it has this that stand, and I don't know, this is not the best ring light. It's often like on the floor in pieces, so I wouldn't necessarily recommend that one. Again, you might have to do a bit of trial and error. I do not by any means have the best lights. You'll see a lot of the shop owners, like Anna has massive lights that she uses, which are much better than what I use. And as you can see, the space that I use behind me is where I film a lot of my top-down videos, and there's not really room for bigger lights than the ones I have right now, and so it can be really difficult to fit them, which is why I prefer the natural light. I can edit my videos if I want to. I don't, but I could edit them to be brighter or darker in iMovie if I wanted to, but I think my natural light is good enough for what I'm trying to do. The downside to ring lights, as well as you need space, and they do create kind of various shadows. If they're not massive, they're going to leave shadows somewhere. That's why I like to have 2 that point down either side. It, in the main, when I used them, created less shadow, but it, in my opinion, wasn't perfect for what I wanted. Also, if you are filming planning content, if you have something glossy, the ring light is going to show a ring. And so if you're using SPC's glossy paper or you have glossy foil, the ring light is going to make it look a little bit odd. So I personally don't like the ring light showing on glossy paper, and so that is why I often just film with natural light, because in the main it's more consistent, it's a kind of flatter light, and so I think it produces better content. If you are going to use any lights, I do recommend white lights. So I can change the color of my light on my ring light, so I'll change it to a yellow. You can see that's quite a difference. Then we've got this one, and then this one. This is the coolest white. So again, bright yellow, this is the kind of middly one, and this is the bright white. I tend to use bright white lighting. I have a bright white overhead light in here for when I need a little bit more light, just because I think that it creates the, particularly as I use a white background, because I use the white of my desk, I think it creates the kind of flattest color. And I also tend to edit my photos on Instagram to be less warm. So I will always turn down the warmth, because I would just prefer a whiter editing style than a yellow editing style. If you are filming top-down videos, I personally would recommend a white background. I think it's easier for people to look at your content and to be focused on the stickers or whatever you're showing. But there are a lot of people that use patterned backgrounds. You can get these from Amazon. Do I have an example here? Yes. So I have this, which I bought a while ago. Sorry, there's probably a load of dust that just came out here. But this was like a sort of marble tabletop sticky thing that I stuck down on some card. This is glossy though, and so with the ring lights, it didn't look so great. I tried another one from Amazon as well, which was just a kind of roll of like flat wooden patterns. That worked okay for some photos, but in the main, I just prefer my white background. You need to figure out what works for you, so do have a think about it. I think particularly if the only surface you've got to film on is a brown background, I would put a white or light grey background on there. So something like a light grey wood pattern could look really nice. So some of my tips for while you're filming, so do try and film somewhere quiet if you can. I say that as somebody who films in a room where there's always building work going on. Right now there's like an annoying whistly tinny noise that's going on in here. I have no idea where it's coming from, and I apologize. I am not the best at this, but if you are someone who is trying to particularly grow your following, remember that if people are listening with headphones to your YouTube videos, which a lot of them will be, any background noises are going to be amplified. So I would recommend, if you can, filming somewhere quiet where people are not going to be able to hear anything other than you chatting away about the thing that you love speaking about. This is a tip for your future editing self, but do try and have a vague idea of what you're trying to say. I'm finding this video harder to film than I do my other videos, and I'm going to have to do a bit more editing than I would normally, but it is good to have a rough outline of what you're hoping to cover. It means that you will get through the video faster, so there's less content to edit, you'll make less pauses and less mistakes. You're just going to thank me for it later. So do try and have a rough idea of what you want to say before you start speaking. Do think about how you speak. It does matter. You'll find that a lot of people will actually consume your content just by listening. So I will have content on in the background while I'm sat planning or while I'm sat doing something else. I'm not necessarily 100% engaged in the video that I'm watching from a visual sense. I'm just listening. And so your voice is very important. I've watched some YouTubers who have said they think that sound quality is even more important than video quality. So that's something to bear in mind if you are thinking about starting a channel. And so you do need to think about, are people going to enjoy listening to me if they're not watching what I'm doing? And also you need to make sure you're explaining yourself clearly for people that are just listening and not watching. Something that I personally have to do is try and slow down when I'm speaking. I speak very fast. I watched Gilmore Girls from a young age, and I consumed that as my main content, and so I speak fast. Obviously I do present for my job. I'm used to speaking out loud, so I know how to make my voice sound like something people might want to listen to. That is useful. Those of you who don't get to practice that every day, then it's really important to make sure you think about how you come across while you're speaking. If I don't really like listening to someone speak on a video, I'm probably going to turn it off. Speaking too fast and unclearly is probably the toughest thing for me. So if you think you're speaking too fast, you probably are. Slow it down a little bit. Now, saying that, there are people that watch YouTube on double, triple time speed. I'm looking at you, Tilly. I don't personally do that, but some people will want you to speak faster. So it's not an exact science, but just make sure you're speaking clearly. That's the most important thing. If people choose to speed you up, then that's totally up to them. Another tip for future editing you is that try not to say while you're thinking of what to say. Pause and come back in when you've thought of what you're going to say. I have gotten really bad at saying it's made some of my Vlogmas content really hard to edit because I've started being like while I'm thinking of what I'm going to say next. Just pause, go quiet, because you can easily cut that out. If you it kind of goes into the first part of what you're saying and then drags into the second part. It's just irritating. So you will thank yourself later if you can avoid the because you probably want to edit them out, particularly if you think you're saying too much. In my Hobonichi video, I said probably 40 times. So it was a lot harder to edit that video than it is my normal content, where I tend not to edit myself too much. If you do mess up, we all do, it's inevitable. You won't know this, but there's about 2 minutes of this video that I've just sat here not knowing what I was saying. I would just cut that out and you didn't need to know unless I told you. I would recommend, if you forget what you're saying or you mess up, stop your thought, regather what you want to say and start again, because you will thank your editing self later if you're not having to kind of cut into the middle of sentences. It's easier to cut at the end of one sentence before the beginning of another. It will just make your life easier. My last tip for filming is around batching content. So Plan with Laken does some really helpful videos that talk about batching content, but it's basically where you film lots of things in one go. You do lots of tasks that are the same in one time. Filming YouTube content is something that I batch. So yesterday I filmed 3 videos back to back. Today I will probably do another 3. I don't have a ton of free time. My full-time job comes first. And so I find it easier to batch my content, and then I edit in one go and I upload in one go. It just makes it easier for me to stay on top of my channel. If you don't have a lot of storage space on your phone or camera, batching is not going to work for you. So this is not a tip for everybody. But if you are someone who is worried about how you're going to find the time to fit this in, batching content is the best recommendation I can give you. So now you've filmed some content, let's get on to editing. So there is loads of editing software out there. Probably the most popular one is Final Cut Pro. That is a paid for software. I really don't recommend that you start paying for editing software until you've got to a point where you're comfortable with editing videos basically, but also your channel is big enough that it is worth you investing in some editing software. I use iMovie, which is on my iPhone, because as I said, I film and I edit on my phone. So I use the iMovie app. It is not that advanced, but it's free and it does the basic job of what I need. I do think I'm getting to a point where I'm probably outgrowing iMovie now, particularly with my BookTube content. I want to be able to put images on the screen. I'll figure out a way to do that on iMovie. And so realistically, I probably need to start moving away, but I know if I do, I'll stop making content. So it's a really difficult fine line for me. But I think when you're starting out, if you have a phone, iMovie is a really good free option. In terms of what I can do on iMovie, I can cut out parts of the video that I don't want. I can edit multiple videos together if I film in multiple shots. I can add music, I can add text, I can change the volume of sound, or I can mute sound if I want to put music over it. I can speed up footage, I can slow it down. iMovie has loads of free music that you can add in that's royalty free as well. It has a pretty good range of tracks that you can add. So in the main, it works for my needs. I can sit on my sofa and edit. I can edit on my commute. It just works better for me this way. It has enough features that work for the kind of content that I'm producing. Anna has recommended, if you would like a Windows recommendation, DaVinci Resolve. She has used other editing software and she prefers this one, and it's free. And if you've watched Anna's videos, they're really well edited. They're really professionally put together. So if Anna recommends it, I think it's a pretty good seal of approval. You will need to find the editing style that works for you. What's really in YouTube at the moment is short jump cuts, particularly in BookTube. It's a big thing where you will cut out small breathing that you do. I personally do not have the patience, especially on my phone, to edit like that. So I tend to leave myself speaking for a long time until I mess up, I make a mistake, or I breathe for too long. I think that editing the little gaps, it's kind of time consuming. It's not something I particularly want to invest my time in, but it is what's in. So think about the editing style you like watching and then see if you can replicate that in your editing software. You don't necessarily need an intro and outro video. Obviously you will probably speak an intro and outro, but you don't necessarily need a specific video that has artwork or animation or anything like that, but they can help to build your brand. I do have an intro and outro on my planning channel. I only use an outro on my book channel because I haven't got round to making an intro for it yet. And I use the same outro on both videos, so it's relatively easy for me. I personally would recommend at least having an outro animation or clip or photo or something like that, because YouTube has a feature called end screens, which is where you get to the end of a video and you see recommended videos come up and you see the little subscribe profile picture. That's called an end screen. And so if you have a set video length that you can kind of hand over to your end screen, it means that you're not putting your end screen over you speaking at the end of a video, which also works. A lot of people do that, but I personally prefer to have the little animation. So you've now filmed, you've edited a video, let's upload it to YouTube. So obviously you're going to need to create a channel first. I'm not going to be talking about that. The process is relatively straightforward. You can upload your MP4 video file directly to YouTube from either your phone, if that's what you do. I download my video from iMovie to my Photos app, and then I just upload it in the YouTube app. Or obviously, if you're editing on a PC or a laptop, you can upload it from your files directly into YouTube. I'd recommend uploading a video as private or unlisted first. Don't go public straight away, because there is some YouTube admin that you'll need to do. And if you have it uploaded as unlisted, nobody else can watch it unless you give them the URL. I will then go in, do all the editing I need to do, schedule it for when I want it, and then I'll put it public when it's ready. YouTube videos do take a while to upload. It is going to depend on your internet speed. It does also have to go through various processing. There's a standard version and a high definition version, so it does take a little while. So if you're trying to upload in a rush, that's probably not going to work. Make sure you allow yourself enough time. There are several parts of YouTube admin that you're going to need to fill out per video. There's things like the description, the video language, uploading a thumbnail, adding hashtags, declaring if you have any sponsored or gifted content, etc. The more you do this, the quicker it gets, but particularly for your first couple of videos, you're going to need to just make sure you're looking through all the options to see what you do and don't need to fill out. There's some stuff I don't fill out because it doesn't apply to me, but it's worth checking what you do need to do. When it comes to deciding what you're going to put in your YouTube description, I would recommend looking at the descriptions of creators that you like and seeing what they put in there. I don't really know how much people do and don't read descriptions. I have quite a lot of content in my description, particularly on my BookTube channel, but it's there. I don't really know if people like it or not. It's a little bit of extra effort for me, but I do have a template that I use that I copy and paste across every video that I have saved in a Google Doc. So it makes it less work for me because I've kind of pre-planned it. You can turn on auto captions for your videos. This is where the text will come up if people click the little CC icon. I really recommend that you do that. YouTube's auto captions are pretty good, to be honest, and it's no extra work for you to make sure that your captions are on, but it will make your content a lot more accessible for the people that are watching your videos. The number of people that watch my videos with CCs is relatively small. You can see this kind of thing in your YouTube analytics, but it is worth it. There are some people that use it. I am someone who wants to make sure I'm being accessible, particularly for the deaf and hard of hearing community. And you can do it easily by switching it on. You don't have to do any extra work. YouTube will do it for you. You can manually put captions into YouTube if you want to. You can like type over what's in there. You can edit them to make them a bit better. This is obviously going to be time consuming. It's something you might not be able to do when your channel is starting out, and the auto captions on YouTube are pretty good, so I would recommend starting with that. I personally don't have an upload schedule for YouTube because I just cannot be consistent enough, but a lot of people do, so it's worth checking out different creators and seeing what you think about whether you think an upload schedule is practical for you, and also whether you think it's going to make a difference. Maybe test out a few different days of uploading to see if particular content works better on certain days. You may find that you're likely to have a more consistent following if people know when to expect videos from you. Most people do have scheduled upload days. I am just not consistent enough to be able to do that. Certain days are definitely more popular for content uploads. Sundays are a pretty popular day, and I don't know whether it's better to upload with that traffic or to avoid it. So it might be worth, as I say, testing out putting your content up on different days to see if it performs better or worse. If going against the grain and going on days that most people are not uploading would work better than you uploading on days that are more popular. YouTube do have an analytics function where you can see how your videos are performing. It ranks them by how well that video is performing against other videos that are performing around then. I don't personally pay that much attention to my YouTube analytics, but it can be useful to see where your viewers are based, how long they're clicking and staying on a video, the type of content that they like watching, how old they are. All that kind of stuff can be useful if you are wanting to tailor your audience really specifically to your audience. It is also useful for figuring out days that might be better, times that might be better to upload, and that kind of thing. But as I say, I personally cannot be that consistent. I'm more focused on getting content out, and so I personally don't get too bogged down in the YouTube analytics. I can't control them that much. Sometimes the YouTube algorithm just be that way, and so there is not much I can do to override it. And I've just kind of got to a point with my YouTube career where I think that I would rather just upload, get videos out. I'll upload what I want. I'm not going to pay too much attention to the analytics. If people like what I put out, they'll watch it. That's all I can do. The next thing I want to talk about is building your following, which I expect many of you want to hear about. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I am not a big channel, and therefore I'm probably not the best recommendation for how to grow your channel because I don't have a huge channel. So it is worth checking out other content creators on this, but maybe there are a few tips I could give you. I do have to say that my goal with social media is very much to just post what I want when I want, because I found that if I try to stick to too much of a schedule, it's really easy for me to fall behind. I am very self-critical, and so it's easier for me to just upload when I can. I love talking about my hobbies, and so I make the videos I want to make. I will track if I think a particular video, for example, Plan With Me's were not performing that well on my channel, so I did decide to cut them. They were a lot of work for me, but if a video is low effort and I like filming it, even if it doesn't get a lot of views, I might leave it up. I did decide to start my BookTube channel separate to my planning channel because book content was really not performing as well as my planning channel, and I didn't want it to kind of mess with the algorithm. I didn't want YouTube to stop recommending my videos to planning people because it was confused about what I was posting. So that's a choice I made in order to, my BookTube channel is very, very small compared to my planning channel, but I will have people over there that want to watch that content and people on my planning channel that want to watch my planning content. So that was a very calculated decision related around views and the algorithm, but you will have to have a think about what works best for you, and you may want to cut videos if you feel like the views aren't there. Sometimes a video will just take off on your channel and you'll have no idea how to predict that. My Hobonichi video that I filmed back in the summer has 4.5 thousand views, which is way more than any other video I'd ever had on my channel. My best performing content is typically storage videos. My IKEA desk tour had done pretty well, very consistently. And so those were the videos I knew would get more views, but this Hobonichi video just flew off. It was recommended from somebody else's video by the algorithm. You can't predict that's gonna happen. You may be able to get a sense of what videos you think generally do better. So hauls do better on my channel consistently across the board, but I can't necessarily film as many hauls if I'm trying to save money. So you do have to put up the content you want to put up, whilst balancing that with, if you want to grow your following, there is certain content that people are going to prefer to watch than other stuff. It takes a long time to get monetized. If you have ever watched a YouTube video where people have given recommendations of how to get successful on YouTube, they will tell you it really does take a while to get monetized. As I said, I've been on YouTube for 2.5 years. I have not reached 1,000 followers and I haven't reached 4,000 public watch hours. It takes a really long time. You have to be really consistent. You have to upload a fair amount of content, but also people have to watch that content. Uploading a load of videos people aren't watching is not really going to solve anything. So it is difficult to get monetized. Do YouTube because you love it, not because you're hoping to make money. Because even once you're monetized, you're not going to make that much money anyway. And so a lot of people don't use YouTube as their main income unless they're like Mr. Beast or Markiplier or someone. You're probably not going to be that. There are a few people on YouTube that make a lot of money and a lot of people who don't. And so do it because you love it. If you happen to eventually end up making money from it, that's totally fine, but don't make that the reason that you make content. Engagement on your videos is really important to help your channel grow and to get your videos recommended to more people. So that's why in your videos people always ask for likes, comments and subscribes. Comments are actually the most effective for helping a video do better. So people commentate. If you are hoping to help other content creators, commenting on their videos is actually the best way to help them. To be honest, I think finding a niche is probably the best way to grow a following, as long as it's a niche people are interested in. I'm going to use my friend Natalie of Raw Plans as an example. She plans in a really unique way, but in a planner that's pretty big, and she has seen growth on both Instagram and her planning YouTube channel that I could never have imagined having. And that's because I plan pretty standard compared to how everyone else plans. I don't make content that's that different, whereas Natalie is making content in a planner that there is not a lot of content about, but that a lot of people own. And so she really hit on a good niche. So if you are really trying to make it big, you probably need to think about doing something a little bit different, but something that people are going to want to watch. My next recommendations that kind of come from building your following is about following what's hot and kind of keeping up with YouTube trends. Keep an eye on what other channels are doing and see if you think you could recreate it. Obviously, give credit where credit is due if you are copying ideas or taking on a challenge that someone else is doing, but it can be a good way if you see a few people doing that video and it's getting a fair amount of views. That's stuff that people like watching, and so it's worth doing that content if you can. Clickbait titles are probably the best way to get people to watch your content, but clickbait titles can be really annoying if you then get on the video and it's nothing to do with what the title said. So if you can, do try and pick a title that, whilst it's enticing, does actually link to what it is you're creating. There are lots of different challenges out there. I wanted to talk about my own experience. A challenge I personally wouldn't recommend is Vlogmas. I did Vlogmas back in 2020, and when I got to the end of it, I told myself I would never do it again because it wasn't worth it. And here I am in the middle of Vlogmas. This video is going to go up in Vlogmas. Vlogmas is basically where people upload a video every day or for 12 days or the whole month, whatever, in December. You are competing with so much more content in Vlogmas. Content that I would expect to do a lot better on my channel is not doing as well because it's going up with loads of other people's videos. I just think you're doing so much work in Vlogmas because you're making more videos than you normally would, and then less people are watching them because of the amount of content is there. So if you are hoping to do a challenge like Vlogmas where you upload multiple videos, I would pick a different time of year to do it, where people are maybe more desperate for content than they are in December. In December, people are busier and there's a lot to watch. So I personally wouldn't recommend it. So my last thing before I start talking about my experience on PR is my general tips for YouTube. So the best and most important recommendation I can give you is just to be yourself. And if people like it, they will come. My videos are chaotic, they're rambly, they are not consistent, but they're very me, they're very real. And a lot of people have told me that they like my videos for that reason. And so I'm never going to be a big channel, and I'm fine with that. I'm not making content. There are not a lot of big planning YouTubers out there. I don't run a shop, and so I don't really have a reason that people would want to watch my stuff, as opposed to just liking me and liking what I do. And I'm okay with that. I've come to terms with that. And it is something that I would kind of recommend to you, that you are just real. People are interested in who you are as a person. They're not necessarily looking for the most put together perfect videos. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. And you have to think about where you're going to fit on that scale. I would really recommend that you engage with other creators' content. Obviously watching, but also commenting, getting involved in the community, getting to know people. I've built up a lot of the following for my channels by engaging with other people's channels. There are people I've become friends with. I'm going to give Kittenish Jess here as an example, that me and Kittenish Jess watch each other's videos, we comment on them, we engage on them, and we became friends through doing that. And so we are proof that you can do that. And so I would recommend that you do engage with other people's content. It helps them to grow as well, but also if they come back and comment on your videos, they might mention you in videos. So for example, if Jess talks about planner face content, sometimes she'll talk about me and my experience on PR, and that promotes my channel. And so it is a good way to sort of network, to meet other people, to share in your frustrations, to share in your celebrations, but also to help support and build each other's communities. I would recommend you don't invest a ton of money on this upfront. I just don't think it's worth it. Try and get better at it for free. Have basic ring lights, have basic, tripods and clips, use equipment you already have to film, use free editing software. Once you get better, you might want to invest more in it, and that's fine. But as I said, it's going to take so long till you get monetized. You're going to be sinking money into this before you're making money back. And so I would recommend that you don't go ham too quickly. Try and slow it down, take it back, do what you can within your remit, and if it works, it'll work. You will obviously get better with practice, but this video only scratches the surface. There are loads of ways that you can learn more about filming, editing, content creation. There are loads of YouTube videos out there. There are loads of Skillshare classes. I would recommend you find a YouTuber who has a Skillshare referral code so that you can get a couple of months free in some cases. There's so much to learn out there. I really have only scratched the surface. This is more just advice. I feel like hopefully I've covered enough that if you want the sort of basics of starting a channel, I've helped a bit, and then somebody else can help you take your channel off from there. But hopefully this has given you an idea of, I don't do a lot of really super interesting, dynamic, different stuff, and there are 800 people who want to watch what I'm doing, and that's very cool. So it's about your expectations, about what you want to achieve. I am so proud of what I've achieved here on YouTube, even if it's not as big as other people, and you can achieve that too. So hopefully this has inspired one of you in some way. So this kind of links in with my YouTube content, because a lot of what I do on YouTube is PR or sponsored content for Plannerface, which is a planning shop. I thought it would be useful to talk about my PR experience. The Plannerface PR team applications are actually open right now for new people to apply. And so I thought maybe some of you would find this useful if you wanted to know a bit more about generally what it's like to be on PR, but also generally just my recommendations for getting on any PR team, not just for Anna's. Now, I do just want to caveat this by saying I am friends with Anna. I was friends with Anna when I joined the PR team. We are much closer now than we were a couple of years ago. I've been on Anna's PR team since July 2020, but we were still friends then. So that is just something to bear in mind. But I'm hoping that the information I'm going to give you today, I'm going to be kind of taking it away from the bits I do extra as Anna's friend. I'm going to be talking more about my specific experience on PR in the hope that that will be useful for you. So I have only been on one PR team because one of these sort of rules of Anna's PR team is not that you necessarily can't be on other PR teams, but you do need to talk to Anna about it, particularly if you're going to be on PR for a shop that sells similar stuff. And because I've been on Anna's PR team for such a long time, I don't PR for anyone else. I love Anna's stuff more than I love any other shop, and so I don't feel a need to PR for multiple people. So that is just something to bear in mind, that my experience is limited to Anna's shop, but I do feel like the things that I've learned and the things that I see and the things that I talk about with the community would still give tips for anyone, even if you are not necessarily necessarily applying for Anna's PR team. So as I said, I do extra stuff for Anna that is kind of part of PR, but kind of slightly different. I'm more a kind of design team member in some ways. So I'm part of the mystery team, which is just me and Anna. But I'm the other half of the mystery team, and I do a little bit more than the rest of the PR team when it comes to sort of making decisions about kits and art and stuff like that. But as I said, I will kind of strip this back to just talking about the stuff that fall under my normal PR duties. So the main thing that you do as PR is you make content about shops that you love. I've really pushed myself out of my comfort zone to make content for Anna. An example of this is quite soon after I got on the team, I went live in Anna's Facebook group, which I've never done before, and I was showing my reusable albums and how I use those, and it was really lovely because it was during COVID, and so people needed a little bit more of something to watch. I started my YouTube channel around the time that I started PRing for Anna. I think it was just before. Yeah, I started like at the beginning of COVID. So I'd only been on YouTube a couple of months before I started PRing for Anna. So over the last few years, I've had to get a lot better at making content and using her products in different ways. It's not just her stickers, it's her albums. That's probably what I'm most known for actually when it comes to talking about Anna's stuff, but also her PR pads, her washi, making sure that I'm using the full breadth of Anna's contents in exciting ways to inspire other people to shop with her. So as well as making content, we also help Anna make decisions about things. So for example, deciding what doodles or scripts should be put on sheets. We sometimes help to decide which art to go with. If there are kit reformats, we can sometimes help with that. So it's really cool because you get a real insight into what a shop is working on. Obviously, Anna might involve her team more than other shops do. I cannot speak for everyone else. I doubt that everyone is quite as involving as Anna is, but it's something that I've really enjoyed part of as sort of being a mini focus group for Anna to help her advise on things that we would love to see in the shop. And we have our own PR team Facebook group, which is where we kind of discuss these kinds of things. One of the coolest things for me is that we get our own freebies and our freebies change every 3 months, and I keep all of mine in a stack so that I have all of them to like frame one day of all the freebies I had while I was on the team. Anna will set up a kind of template and we have to put stuff in the template, but we pick the quotes, the doodles, the scripts, whatever's in that PR template, and it's really pushed me out of my comfort zone to come up with things that I think people would like in my freebies. So that's one of my favorite things about being on the team. People then request my freebie when they're shopping. They also use my code to get a discount, but for me the exciting bit is the freebie. Obviously they save money, that's great, but I love a freebie. As a thank you for being on Anna's PR team, we get £25 credit per month, which we can spend on anything in the shop, which we should then be using to show in videos, posts, etc. And we also get 25% off, so that if we shop outside of our £25 credit, which I frequently do, then we get 25% off. So that is a cool benefit, but that is kind of the payment that we get for being on the team. I would really recommend that you pick a team that you would be happy to PR to, because just using the £25 credit, obviously that is fine, but I shop with Anna anyway, and so I'm showing a commitment to Anna's shop. If I shop normally as I would, I just get my £25 PR credit as well. I shop with Anna all the time. The fact that I get a discount is obviously an added benefit. So I want to give some tips on how to get onto a PR team. As I say, I have only been on one PR team, so I may not be the best kind of recommendation here, but I am friends with Anna. I do kind of know what does and doesn't work for being on PR, so I do hope that it will be useful for some of you, whether you're trying to get on Anna's PR team or another PR team. So ideally you need to have a following on multiple platforms, for example Instagram and YouTube, maybe TikTok as well. Different shops are going to have different recommendations for how many followers they would ideally like you to have. Some places do have minimum amounts, so I'm going to use Fairy Loot as an example, which is for books, not for planning, but they have a benchmark of like 3,000 followers or something like that before you can even be considered to apply. So there may be restrictions that some shops will have. Basically, the aim is that you are bringing in new business, and so the bigger followings you have on your own social media, the better that is likely to be for the shop. When it comes to the content that you make on your own social media, make sure you know what is currently in. So TikTok and Reel are much more in than Instagram grid posts, for example, which if you follow Instagram algorithms, you might know have really tanked in terms of the number of people that actually see your post. Instagram is always going to prioritize Reels over other content. And so if you are doing what you've always done, which is just posting grid posts, that might not really get seen. So you do need to keep up with what's happening on social media and move with the times. Doing what you've always done is not necessarily going to grow your following, and to be honest, I speak as somebody who has suffered from that. My Instagram has been really stagnant at around 1,700 followers for a couple of years potentially at this point, because I don't really make reels. So Instagram is not prioritizing my content. That tends to be, for me personally, why I focused on YouTube. I've had a much steadier growth there. My content performs a lot better than the content I make for Instagram. I prefer longer form content. I prefer just sitting down and chatting and people watching it. And so for me, that's where I focused my efforts over Instagram. But Instagram Reels and TikTok are really where it's at in terms of social media. I don't even have TikTok because I'm worried I'll just fall down the rabbit hole. But some people do, and TikTok is obviously really big. And so if you make content for TikTok, that could be a really interesting and new way for you to bring in customers for a shop that they wouldn't get otherwise. Something that is, I think, a pro for YouTube content is that it does have longevity. So Instagram Reels, TikToks, they move pretty quickly. People aren't going to go back and watch ones from a while ago. People still watch my storage videos, for example. So content I made a year ago, 2 years ago, where I show my sticker collections and my planner face albums still benefits sales for Anna 2 years on. And so I do think that there is a pro in YouTube content in terms of the fact that it lives on the platform for a lot longer. I do think that focusing your efforts on your external social media is better than focusing on, say, being in that shop's Facebook group. It's obviously lovely to be active, and Facebook groups are a really lovely community of people that really love the same shop, but you are kind of speaking to an echo chamber of people that already love it if they're bothered about being in a Facebook group. And so you're less likely to bring in new business by being a consistent poster in a Facebook group. So your own social media growth is very important for bringing in new business, which is ultimately what you're trying to achieve when you're on PR. You do also need to show the shop that you're not just applying because you like it. You do need to actually post content, because that is what your obligations are when you're on the PR team. So do try and post regularly if you can, and posting content in different ways. For example, it's not that interesting, at least for me personally, to just see like a picture of a washi tape. I want to see the washi tape used. I want to see a planning pad in action. I want to see a kit being used in action, not just the kit in its form that it exists when Anna shows it on the website. I want to see how I can use the content, and if people can then envisage how they can engage with it, they are more likely to buy it. That is how I've kind of focused my content. The videos that do best on my channel, as I've mentioned, are things like my storage videos, me talking about how I'm going to be using different things. And the videos that I do where I talk through my planner face albums for my sticker storage is what has sold a fair amount of Anna's albums, is because I talk in depth about how I use them and the different collections I have. And so I would recommend thinking about how you use the products, not just showcasing the products when you are creating your content. Some people really focus on putting props in photos. Personally, I think props can be quite distracting, particularly if they're in more of the photo than the product. And so it is worth thinking about a plain white background with good lighting is often fine if you're showing how the product is being used, then having props take up the majority of the photo and maybe the product is more staged than actually showing it being used. That's a personal preference thing. I cannot say what particular shop owners would like, but as someone who consumes planning content, that is what I would rather see. And if I was a shop owner, that's what I would be looking for, is how my product is being used. Remember that you may not get on a team first time. Don't be disheartened, do reapply. Often the issue is who you're up against, and you won't know that. You might be competing with people who have a much bigger following than you, who suit the shop and what they're looking for in that way. So just keep doing what you're doing, keep being consistent, keep being authentic, keep showing your love of the products, and eventually it will hopefully pay off. But I do think that if it isn't working, sometimes you do need to just take a step back. How can you improve your content? Does your lighting need to maybe get a little better? Do you need to showcase the products in different ways? Do you need to branch out? If you've only been making Instagram content, is it worth you thinking about starting a YouTube to talk about your content in another way? It's just worth thinking about if there's something you can develop that's within your means. Don't stress yourself out too much, because ultimately, if you do it just so you can get on a PR team, that's not worth it. So you need to make sure you're thinking about only doing it because you love it. I am never making content just to suit Anna in the nicest way possible. Like, Anna's my friend, I can say that. I'm not making content to suit Anna. I'm making content I enjoy. I love planner face, and so it's very easy for me to include planner face stuff within my spread. But if I was PRing for like 4 different shops and having to constantly think about, I need to make sure I'm showcasing their stuff, I need to make sure I've got a sticker from them, I need to make sure I've posted, I would personally find that overwhelming. I want it to be authentic and come from me as something that just fits into my lifestyle. That's why Anna is who I choose to PR for. And so when you're PRing, try not to make it fake so that it's not for you. This is your hobby. You need to enjoy it. Yes, it's lovely to get credit from Anna and a discount code so that it's cheaper to shop with her. But if I don't love the content, I'm not helping anybody. So when you get on a team, which will hopefully happen at some point, it is worth you making sure that you refresh yourself with what your PR obligations are. So you will have a set of rules for that shop of how many times you need to post, the type of content that you need to post, that kind of thing. It's really important to make sure you follow that, because ultimately that's the guide that the shop is using to assess how well you're doing against your PR obligations. And they are choosing to give you stuff for free. They're giving you credit. They're giving you a code so you can get a discount. You do need to be doing what you said you were doing. So it's really important to make sure that you do look at what those rules are and you follow them. You need to make sure that you are marking your content as sponsored or gifted as well. So on YouTube, there's a box you can tick which says, yes, this includes paid promotion. You will have seen that in a lot of my videos. And on YouTube, I have Anna as like a paid partner. And so I make sure to tag her in posts and on Instagram stories. I also always put #ad if I'm ever going to be making content that's about Plannerface, because YouTube then reminds me to add her as a paid partner. So I found that really useful, but also it's to do with making sure that people know when you have had something that you maybe haven't paid for, or it's been gifted, or it's sponsored content. It's important to make sure people know that. Even if you are being genuinely authentic, it's important that they know that it's content that you have kind of been paid to make. So my tips for being a good PR member, I've said it a few times, but PR for a shop you like, it just makes life so much easier for everybody, especially you. I would say that really only apply for a team if you actually have the time to be on the team. If you are someone who's kind of just applying because you think it would be good or you want to, and then you are not very good at it because you don't have the time, you're going to annoy the shop. You're probably not going to get on PR again. So only apply for it when you think you have the time and the energy. You do have to make content that is creative, that's interesting, that's showing you, showcasing products, and that is time consuming. It just is. So make sure that you do think about whether that is something that you actually have time for in your life right now. Make sure that you follow any of the rules that you need to, because if you don't, why would the shop ask for you to be on the PR team again, or why would they accept an application from you again? So it is important to make sure that you stick to those rules. There will obviously be some times where there might be unforeseen circumstances where you can't meet your PR obligations, in which case make sure that you reach out to the team. Don't just kind of disappear off the face of the earth, or even worse, still claim your PR credit but not actually promote it anywhere. It's just not fair on anybody. Make sure that you reach out if there is something that comes up that means that you can't meet your obligations. Don't agree to be on a new PR team without speaking to your initial PR team member shop first. Anna, as I mentioned, does have some rules around this, around being on other PR teams and asking her permission before you apply to be on other teams at the same time as being on her team. And it's really important that you don't burn bridges with the shop that you're PRing for by trying to get on multiple teams without speaking to them. So do make sure you check the rules. If they need you to ask about being on other teams, then it's really important to make sure that you do that, because you're probably going to find yourself not getting on the team in the future. And shops do talk. If you PR for multiple people, it's just worth making sure that you kind of don't upset anybody. You're obviously going to be judged on how you perform while you're on the team, and you will either have an affiliate link or you'll have a code or something like that, which is how people will get a discount if they use what you're promoting. So do make sure that you link it wherever possible. Don't go too salesy because it's kind of annoying, but do make sure that you have it linked in descriptions of videos or in your bio on Instagram, or if you're posting on Facebook, make sure that you are mentioning your code, etc., so people know they can use it to get a discount, or to use your affiliate link so that they can kind of show that they're supporting you. So my last thing then is to, if you've got to the end of this and you think you would love to apply to be on Anna's PR team, just to let you know, PR applications are open now. They close on the 21st of December, and then the new PR team will be notified on the 23rd of December. I will have a link in the description to the application form so that you can fill that out if you would kind of like to apply. Hopefully this part of the video has been useful to you, even if you don't want to apply to be on Anna's team, but you want to apply to be on any PR team, or you want to work your way up to being on a team. If I'd applied for Anna's PR team back in 2016 when I first started planning, she wouldn't have taken me. I had to get to a point where my Instagram following was big enough that I could produce interesting enough content that I had something to offer Anna. So it is worth thinking about. You may not be ready for a PR team now, but you might be in a year or two's time if you commit to improving your content. And so hopefully these tips have been useful for forward planning, even if it's not something that you're ready for right now. So that's the end of this video. I really hope that you have found it useful, interesting. Please do comment down below if you are a content creator and you have any tips that you don't think I mentioned in this video. That was always really helpful to share that with other people. But also, if you are someone who did find any of this useful, it's really helpful to know that this video is quite long compared to my other content. It's going to take me a while to edit, And so hopefully, as I said, if one of you finds it helpful, then I will have achieved that. If you do have any more questions about being on Anna's PR team, feel free to message me on Instagram if you want to. If you don't want to comment it publicly, I'm happy to have a chat with you. Obviously, I might not be able to help with everything, but if you want to have a chat with me, you're more than welcome. I will have a link in my description to my BookTube channel, and I will also have a link to my Instagram, which is where I obviously post a lot about my various hobbies, so do make sure that you check that out. If you haven't already, I would also love it if you would subscribe. See, this is your Endspiel, okay? You Endspiel it. I never even remember to say all the things. I have to often like re-edit myself because I forget to say everything, but do your Endspiel. Otherwise, I'll see you in my next video. Bye! Now we're going to my outro and end screen. Bye, everyone.